coming up on today's episode.
The first name Richard, the nickname is Dick. And a Hoover is a vacuum, which sucks. That's
okay.
She wore a fat suit for that part. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
And her grandpa taught her, which was a total striptease.
Yeah.
Did the concept, I don't want to be a loser, influence you growing up?
Oh my God.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
Hello and welcome aboard. I'm Joe. That's Ryan right over there. And we're on the couch again to discuss things to do over a weekend in Santa Barbara, starting with renting e-bikes and heading to Brioche Bakery in Montecito.
Yep.
And when you start your day like that, Ryan, and if you ever did, you just can't go wrong. Anything you do after that,
that just sets it up.
It's all
sets
icing.
the precedence
It's
for the
all
rest of the
icing
day.
after that.
Okay, good to know.
But since you all out there are paying huge bucks to hear us talk about movies and shows,
Huge bucks.
Exactly. Let's have a blether about the 2006 indie charmer, Little Miss Sunshine, shall we?
Love that word. 2 words there. Indie charmer.
Because it is.
I'm a fan of an indie charmer. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. And this hits that genre quite sweetly.
Hits the nail right on the head.
Yeah, for sure. First, got to say, I don't have to, but I'm going to. I think this film ages really well.
Agreed. I saw it a long time ago, maybe shortly after it came out, a couple of years after it came out, and then just recently, obviously, with this. And yeah, same.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised at how well it stood the test of time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, the clothing styles and what have you are quite dated. But it still felt really fresh and poignant.
Mm-hmm. The themes are still very much relatable. For sure.
And I really have so much appreciation for movies that make me laugh really hard. Which this did.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately, what I love about this movie is that it has a beautiful undercurrent of kindness running through it.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what makes this work so well.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah. It's not sentimental or sugary. It's not about puppies and kittens, but all the characters show at some point true kindness.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah, we see it from each of them.
Yes.
That they're all capable of it.
Because they are all capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
We, of course, also see them proverbially body slam each other.
Body slam's a good one.
Exactly. But as REM once said, the sweetness follows.
Love it.
Which it does. So Little Miss Sunshine stars, if you didn't know, we'll tell you. It stars Steve Carell, who when they filmed this was a quote-unquote unknown. And the producers were really nervous about casting him.
So had he not done anything else at this point?
Well, in the time that no, not really.
Wow.
So they filmed this, and then 40-Year-Old Virgin was released.
Oh.
And then The Office came out.
Wow, man. So he just really hit it big.
And then Little Miss Sunshine.
So 06 was a good year for Steve Carell.
It was a very good year for him. So, the producers are really nervous about having this unknown in their movie.
Sidebar.
Yeah,
Steve
please.
Carell's such a fantastic actor who can do both comedy and drama so well.
Yep.
He can just pip right in and out of it.
He sure can. And he has that comedian timing too. So even when he's giving lines that aren't necessarily funny, whatever, I just love his delivery.
Yeah,
I love his sense of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
He does deliver a line that I am going to quote later on here. And I watched it over and over to watch how he gave that.
Yeah, how he delivered it.
'Cause it was just beautiful.
Agreed.
The guy is a talent. There is no doubt.
A lot of talent in this one.
Huge. 'Cause it also stars Toni Collette, Abigail Breslin, she was nominated for an Academy Award for this.
Which is wild. Which I love, but is wild.
It is wild. What? She was 10. 9. Yeah, she was 10 years old. Alan Arkin, who did win an Academy Award for this, and Paul Dano. What an amazing cast.
Yeah, that's a stacked cast.
Very stacked. It was directed by Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris and written by Michael Arndt. Fun fact, this was Michael Arndt's first screenplay. and it won a Best Screenplay Oscar.
Wow.
So it also won an award for Best Screenplay on his block in Lincoln Heights, but that wasn't as big a deal as the Oscar. And he actually, he had to quit his personal assistant job to write that movie, and that was probably an excellent decision on his part.
I'm glad he quit it.
Yeah.
I'm glad he wrote the movie.
We all are.
It is
actually.
a delight.
Yeah. So all six of you out there who haven't seen this, why are you still listening to us? Please go see this film. It is brimming with talent, as we just said. So we're going to discuss specific scenes and lines from this movie. And if you haven't seen it and you like surprises, then really do go watch it on Amazon Prime and then come back to us for the discussion. And that's my way of saying ahoy, spoilers ahead, matey.
Mm-hmm.
And F-bombs will be dropped in context, so delicate ears beware.
Yeah, you can't do this movie justice without dropping a couple of F-bombs.
Right, because they certainly did.
Oh,
and
they did not shy away.
Not at all. So as we always ask, please leave a like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. So we really appreciate you. Want to let you know that.
So we do.
Ryan, shall we just jump in?
Let's jump in, man. Let's talk about Little Miss Sunshine, shall we?
We're going to. So, Ryan, there is a term, actually, it's a word that gets used a lot in this movie, and I'll admit it pushes my buttons. Well, actually, it pushes the memories I have of the buttons that would get pushed, and it took me a while to work this out. So, to me, using the word in this context is using it wrong. Incorrectly. And I haven't even said what it is, but I'm weird, so take that with a grain of salt. And that word, that term is loser. Because that also is a thread that is running through this whole movie, this perception of winners and losers.
Yeah, worried about being a loser.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can also throw quote unquote winner as the other side of the same seriously judgmental coin. You know?
You said that like you're just weird, so take it with a grain of salt. But I don't think that's weird at all.
Okay. To
have that kind of sentiment, I think that it is a very strange word.
But I guess I appreciate that you and I think of alike in so many things, and we find that out more and more that we do this show.
What did you mean by that? Like what?
It's such a particularly back when this movie was made, I think the term was used more, but it still gets used in the context of that was weak. Somebody's weak, and talking about losers and winners. And
if you're weak, you're a loser. If you're strong, you're a winner.
Yeah, and you might think of yourself as successful, if you will, if you've just survived another day. That's amazing. You are a success, and every single person on this planet is different unless you're identical twins. And even then you're still different.
Yeah.
And so to put people up on to measure people in a particular way and say we have winners here and losers here is, to me, it's insane.
Yeah. To categorize them, to file them into this is where you are, or this is where you are.
Yeah.
Is very strange.
But it's also incredibly common.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it's pretty
It's a
widely
loose term
accepted.
that gets thrown around.
Yes.
Like you said, not so much now. It feels like back then it was a lot more
true,
common. But
today, though, I think it's weak is the term rather than a loser. Someone's weak.
Yeah, I wonder I'm always so curious what the generations that are growing up now are. How are they treating each other, and what language is being used? And because we all go through childhood. We all, childhood can be a little tricky. It can be tough, and we're kind of hard on each other.
Well, here's agreed. But what I have seen, like I worked in an Apple store, and I worked with a bunch of 20-somethings, and there was a real issue with getting them to engage with the public. It was difficult for some of them. So we'd have some of you work on the floor of an Apple store, you carry this handheld computer, and it'll show you who's next in the queue.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it will say, Stan is next in the queue, and he's looking for an iPhone. And so you kind of look at this, and you get an idea of what's up. the store manager purposely took that away because she saw that employees would walk up to customers and just say, "So you want an iPhone? What are you thinking?" And didn't know how to engage them, didn't know how to say hello. Hey, how's it going?
Strike up a
God, it's an
conversation.
awesome day out there, isn't it?
Right.
How is it to be indoors for a little while? Just whatever. I would just go up to people and go, God, take those shoes.
Yeah,
Those are crazy. And you get them talking and just,
loosen them up.
And the manager was explaining to me that a lot of youngins didn't have that skill.
Interesting. You think that's a social media generation?
For sure. And so when you're talking about, I wonder how it is for young people, I think there is so much interaction that happens electronically. And I'm not saying all, but I think a lot of the art of human interaction is being compromised with how dominant electronic communication is.
Yeah. And I think the landscape has evolved a little bit since the time that this film came out, because Loser has kind of in some ways has taken different meaning. We did an episode on adolescence.
Yes.
Where it was more incel.
Yeah. Well, so you're right. So and you could take that term then too, because there's the same
getting kind of to the same point.
Right.
But it's a different way of articulating it.
It is. And that's part of where I feel like this movie didn't really age that much, because we still have, the words might be slightly different, but the thinking is the same.
Agreed. I'm with you. Yeah.
So as you might have guessed, Ryan, because we've done this before, I have a question for you.
I have an answer somewhere. I don't know where it's at.
All right, let's see if you can conjure it. Did you grow up with that term, loser, and were you aware of it? And did the concept, I don't want to be a loser, influence you growing up or even later in life?
Oh my God. Did it ever? Without question.
Wow.
Sometimes I feel like I don't want to make a generalization, so I'll just stick to me.
Okay.
It was woven into the environment, or like how I grew up, not based on people close to me or that cared about me, but just being a kid, being a boy, and growing up. We valued things like strength and being good at sports and things like that. And so if you weren't good at those things, or if you weren't big and strong, you were filed into that category. You were a loser. You're not out there winning the football game. You're, So I think, it was absolutely a part, whether subconsciously or consciously, it was a part of, what drove, I think, a lot of decisions I made as a boy, as a young kid who doesn't know any better, who's just trying to go through the motions and figure things out. It's like, well, I don't want to be a loser, so let me try hard at this, or let me try and be cooler, or something like that. I've talked about it before on here, but I was always a skinny kid. I was always a scrawny kid, you'll say. I didn't have a lot of meat on the bones. And so it built this perception into me where I felt that I was a loser, that I was weak, that I wasn't as strong as the guy next to me or whatever. Like, I always felt different in that way. And I think that influenced a lot of the decisions that I made.
Well, and being different, by different, you mean less than.
Correct, 100%. Being a loser.
Brutal. And like, that's where,
What about you? Do you have any experience growing up with that? Do you feel like that kind of shaped a little bit of your decisions?
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in a household that, sports was a big deal. And so it was very competitive. And some things about that I really liked, but some things about that I could see as I got older were not super healthy.
Sure. Yeah. Agreed.
And something that it took a while for me. It took a while for it to dawn on me, but I think within that is very much a, what do the Joneses think? What do the neighbors think? What do others think? And
Absolutely.
So you're always comparing yourself to, you were saying, people with more meat on the bones, or however whatever it is. And by that I mean it's a way of looking at yourself and other people based on the perceptions of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Or to put it another way, what do the Joneses think? So, my first thought is, who the fuck cares? But it turns out that a lot of people care what those hypothetical other people think.
I cared for a long time.
Right. I still do to a degree, but
Sure.
thankfully, as I get older, much, much less. And
Yeah.
so, and yet the real beauty for all of us lies in our individuality. And if we could liberate ourselves from what the Joneses think, or as what Sam Cooke said, if we could do that, what a wonderful world it would be.
What, oh boy, wouldn't it be, huh?
And if we could just use the terms winners and losers in sports or other types of contests, well, that would be icing on the wonderful, wonderful world cake,
I've got something that's coming to me right now.
Yeah, let it out, man.
I'm thinking about a certain person who's a certain public figure, who's certainly who's in the media a lot, who is a fond user of these kinds of terms.
That's right. That's part of why this is still so poignant.
To me, this reveals a lot about the person that's using it.
Boy, doesn't it? There is something that people who have a lot of dignity and strength really never say about other people, and that is they never call other people weak. I don't see people
That's an insecurity.
I've right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you feel the need to attack someone else, you're trying to do it out of defense of yourself.
Absolutely
Why?
true.
Because you don't think so highly of yourself.
For sure. And that was really clear in this movie. I mean, Greg Kinnear,
100%. Yeah,
he just embodied that so
yeah.
so beautifully that he was painful to watch.
Yeah,
at
he's
times.
great.
He's
He's
so
great.
good.
Yeah.
Everyone was so good in this.
Yeah.
So we have so many scenes that display the winners losers dynamic so well. So shall we discuss some?
Yeah, I'm excited
Why
to
not?
see which ones you chose.
Well, and I also want to touch on scenes that to me were just awesome.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I love that.
So if they weave in with our theme here just as well. I'm wondering if we should take a bad guy break or nah, let's do it. Let's just jump into a scene then. Let's do that. So the family's at the dining table eating fried chicken for dinner again.
Love this.
So Olive, played supremely by Abigail Breslin, asks Uncle Frank, played by Steve Carell, why he has bandages on his arms. We know it's because Frank tried to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
Frank is very frank, shall we say, with his answers.
I like the way you put that.
And her mother, also played pitch perfectly by Toni Collette,
One of my
wants Olive
favorites.
to hear the answers. And her father, I need to explain his name at some point. Does not. Truth wins out. I guess I missed that point. His name is, I don't know if you caught this, but his name is Richard Hoover. And that was done very much on purpose. The first name Richard, you could, the nickname is Dick. And a Hoover is a vacuum, which sucks. So that's,
okay.
he is a sea sucker, if you will.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
didn't put that together until
Yep.
you just said it, man. That's fucking hilarious.
Well, I didn't put that together. That was something that the writer did very consciously.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
So Frank refers to this grad student that he fell in love with because Olive's asking what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And he refers to him as the second most highly regarded Proust scholar. Richard, the dad, who clearly doesn't think Frank is a winner, asks who the top scholar is. And Frank's answer surprises Richard. And how would he feel about him now? Because actually it turns out that Frank is the leading Proust scholar.
Yeah.
And you see Richard just kind of go, huh. And I would love to know, like, now how do you feel about him? Because you
Right.
already had him in the loser bucket. Oh,
Right.
but he's the best at something.
Right, eat your words, bud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But of course not. He must have felt some confusion. So Frank tried to check out early, as
We'll say.
Grandpa put
Try
it.
to unalive himself.
Yes, but we clearly saw that he was unsuccessful, and as Frank put it, he failed at that as well. So we get to see that Frank is really struggling with winning and losing.
Yeah.
And Richard, the dad, wanted to teach Olive a story from this, a lesson.
Yeah.
So he says the important thing to take away from this is that Frank made foolish decisions and he gave up on himself, which is something that winners never do.
Which is great because, well, not great, but you know what I mean. It just fits his character so well because he's just such a jackass. Isn't he?
That's the better word for him.
Yeah,
he really
he's
is
just
a
such
jackass.
a jackass.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a great scene. And it's a good scene. We talked about, what did we talk about exposition scenes that are really good? Oh, Training Day.
Yeah.
When we get the scene in
The
the
dining
diner,
room.
we
Yeah,
understand the
diner
dynamics
scene,
of the
excuse me.
characters,
Yes.
and it sets up the rest of the film.
And that's exactly what this did.
Exactly what this did for me.
Yeah.
It's like you get to know a little bit about each of the characters and how they really are.
Yep.
And yeah, jackass is the only thing that comes to mind for Greg Kinnear's character.
I love when, and this is a little bit off the topic, but I love when he says that he fell in love with this man, and Olive's like, "You fell in love with a boy?" He said, "Yes, I did." She goes, "Well, that's silly." And Frank said, "Well, yes, it was." Then Grandpa goes, "There's another word for it."
Yeah. It was
funny, hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many great lines and
So
scenes
much
that
we could talk about forever,
I'm going to
yeah.
try to keep myself on the point. But first, Ryan, let's have a bad guy break,
Let's do
shall we?
it. Let's do it.
So the year is 2004.
Okay.
The setting is present-day Evanston, Illinois, but it was shot in Toronto.
Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay.
The genre is satire. It stars Rachel McAdams.
A Rachel McAdams satire?
Yeah. I might have stumped you.
Yeah, you might have gotten me. I'm trying to think of Rachel McAdams movies, and
See,
then I'm trying to think of
I didn't tell you the
satire.
theme of the bad guy, and maybe that would have given it away a little bit more.
What's the theme here? Give me the theme.
Well, it's carrying what the Joneses think. You know, it's carrying what other people think to a very high degree. And you really, in this movie, if you were at this particular high school and you were a girl, you really would have cared what the Rachel McAdams character thought.
Is this Mean Girls?
This is Mean Girls.
Okay. Got it.
So, Rachel McAdams was just so freaking brilliant in this. And she was just flat out mean.
Yeah, and hey, brought the title of the film to life.
Exactly.
She was exactly that. She was a mean girl. That's a good bad guy break given the context here.
Thank you.
I like
thought
that.
so too.
I like that you chose that. Yeah,
Cheers.
that's awesome.
So we're gonna jump into the scenes 2, 3, and 4.
Oh, we get all three, huh?
Yeah, they kind of run together. And
Lovely.
I just, again, we could have. I could go scene through scene in this movie. This is one of
course.
those where I just would talk about every one of them. So I'm going to break from our usual theme and discuss 3 great lines from 3 great scenes.
Please.
Okay. So the first takes place in the van driving west on Highway 40, which is kind of fun for me because I've done that drive between Santa Fe and LA almost 40 times.
Wow.
So I know that road really well.
Okay.
So, Richard, Greg Kinnear, asked Grandpa, Alan Arkin, what happened at Sunset Manor? Because, Grandpa's living with them now.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to tell you that during this scene, Olive, Abigail Breslin, has headphones on. And the production team did that very much on purpose and had music playing so that she could not hear Alan Arkin's lines. Because they were so
Maintain
very spicy.
Yeah. Okay.
So when she takes the headphones off and
Maintain
says,
the
what are you
innocence.
talking about? I love it because she looks back at Grandpa. What are you guys talking about? He looks at her for a second. He goes, politics. And she goes, oh. And puts the headphones back on.
Yeah.
I love that.
Genuine.
So so Grandpa goes into a rampage
That's a
about
good way to put it.
Sunset Manor. And he said, I paid my money. They took my money. I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want. And what he wanted to do was snort heroin in peace. So they didn't see it that way and kicked him out.
Yep.
Grandpa turns to his grandson, played by Paul Dano, and says, don't you start taking that shit when you're young. You're crazy to do that stuff. And I love it because the Paul Dano character just kind of goes, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then Uncle Frank, Steve Carell, says to Grandpa, what about you? He said, what about me? I'm old. When you're old, you're crazy not to do it. And I just loved that so much. And I
Such a
thought
good line.
that just personified him so beautifully.
He
So-
could have won an Oscar just for that scene alone.
Well, and maybe that is what clinched it.
Yeah.
He then goes on to describe his life in truly hedonistic terms, and it is hilarious. I thought it worked so well. And it also really showed these were not the words of a guy who thinks in terms of winners and losers.
Yeah.
You know, he's free of that. And he has absolutely no more fucks to give. And I just loved his freedom.
I love it too, man. I mean, he's such a great character. I think he's it's like he said in there, like, he's like, I'm old. I'd be crazy not to do it. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
He's so aware, and the delivery's so good.
It is.
So poignant, so funny.
And I loved within that whole dynamic of the winners and losers, we've got the son who's taken this, vow of silence, if you will, hasn't spoken in months because he's looking at all this. And he even says later in the film, I hate all of you.
Yeah.
First he says it by notepad, and then he says it quite vocally.
Mm-hmm.
He sees the insanity of this. And so does the grandpa. The grandpa doesn't want to have anything to do with it. He only lives there because he has to. He does not want to be there. I think he's torn because he loves his son, but his son, I think he'd also love to throttle him.
Yeah.
And if they weren't related, is there any chance in the world the two of them would hang out? Never.
Absolutely never.
Never.
Mm-mm.
I also, part of what I loved about Alan Arkin's character is that, as we get older, it's easier, and I can say this from experience being roughly twice your age. As you get older, you can get more settled into whatever routine. You can get more settled into however you see life and what should be done,
Okay.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Grandpa is just like, what? Forget that, man. I want to have a good time. I'm old. I get to do heroin now.
Yeah,
and he talks
yeah.
about also having all the sex he had at Sunset Manor.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just I loved his how liberated he was, and I thought
That's a good word. That's the word that I was thinking of too. Is that he's very liberated. It's very just living life.
totally.
Just carefree. Just, I'm old. Who gives a fuck?
And he really helped set up such a great contrast with his son
Mm-hmm.
and how rigid his son
Who's
is.
the complete opposite? Yeah.
Total opposite. We also see it's not working for him so well.
No, it's not
you know?
working out.
So let's go to the second one.
Yes.
The second one takes place on the side of the highway.
This
So
is my favorite scene.
is it?
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, great. I'm glad we're excuse me, we're going to talk about that. So Dwayne, like I was talking about, the son, played by Paul Dano, has not spoken in several months. And he's doing this as a protest, like I was saying. I thought it was a protest to the whole winners and losers dynamic. I'm sure
Okay.
it's a lot deeper than that.
Mhm.
Anyway, he has just learned in the van that he's colorblind. And this is a crushing discovery since his dream is to fly jets for the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something one cannot do if
Yeah.
they're colorblind.
Yeah.
So this news is devastating and he is inconsolable. So he's also thrashing about so badly and kicking the sides of that van. I thought, he's going to kick right through the side of that van.
Yeah, he was really going at it.
Totally. So Dad has to pull the van over because Dwayne is absolutely losing his shit. And the mom tries to talk to him, and boy, does it not work. It actually made things a lot worse. And he goes off on her and everyone else. And he says that they're all losers.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he hated all of them too. It was brutal.
Yeah.
So she comes back to the van and she says, we're just going to have to wait until he cools down. But the problem is they have to get to the Little Miss Sunshine pageant in Redondo Beach.
not a lot
And
of
they're on a
time.
really tight schedule.
Mm-hmm.
This I just freaking loved. Olive doesn't say a thing. Mom says we just have to wait it out. Olive walks down this really steep shoulder off the side of the road and goes to her brother. She sits next to him and simply puts her head on his shoulder. No words. After a few minutes, he gets up and goes back to the van.
That's why I'm talking about my favorite scene. I just love the way that she handled that. I mean, she's such a delightful little kid that's so full of innocence, and she knows that sometimes you just need somebody to comfort you.
Exactly. And so even though I said this was to cover great lines, this one had absolutely no spoken words.
It's a beautiful act of kindness that simply all it required was her walking down there, sitting next to him, and putting her head on his shoulder. That's it. That's all it took.
And I love that we waited there for a few beats. It wasn't like it just happened immediately.
Right? Absolutely.
And it completely softened him.
100%. Let it breathe a little bit.
And that was your favorite
That's
scene
my
in the-
favorite scene in the movie. Yeah, yeah. I think so. Just because I just love... Well, first of all, I love this. It's the first time we get to hear him speak.
Yes.
And how passionate he was about his dreams and ambitions, and how crushed he was. It was just an emotional scene, and then just to have it capped off by that beautiful, touching moment. You just love Olive, and she's just such a sweetheart, such an innocent sweetheart.
She is so
And she's surrounded by a
fantastic.
bunch of crazy people.
She is, and who love her. And
Yeah.
the scene where she gets the news that she won her pageant and gets to go to Little Miss Sunshine, and she's like, that is, I back that up. My brother and I were screaming, laughing, because it's just so sweet. I mean, it's just explosive joy.
Being a kid, that's what happens, right?
And then she runs around there and she starts packing right away. She just starts packing.
Yep.
I just,
It's so good.
She wore a fat suit for that part. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
I know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is interesting to put a kid in a
And
fat suit.
that was totally non sequitur on my part. But I'm glad I'm glad I pulled out one of your favorite scenes from this.
my favorite scene from the movie. Yeah, absolutely.
So I would think you're gonna like this one too. The third scene takes place on a pier outside of the hotel where the Little Miss Sunshine Beauty pageant takes place.
Yeah.
And Dwayne and Frank are talking. And now that Dwayne's talking, and Dwayne points out that life is one big fucking beauty contest after another. School, college, work. And he says, fuck that. You do what you love and fuck the rest. And
Amen, Frank.
I back that up a couple times and watched that too, because he's talking to Dwayne, saying this to Frank, and you could see it on Steve Carell's face that he just clocked like, damn, yeah,
Yeah, it got through to him.
it really did.
I think Dwayne respected Frank.
For sure,
For
he
being
did.
his own
he
man.
did. I completely agree with you. I think he did. Do you remember at the beginning of the movie? So Frank comes home with his sister, and because he had attempted suicide, the hospital told her he shouldn't be sleeping alone in any room.
Yeah.
And so she puts him in the room with her 17-year-old son, who's not speaking at the time, Dwayne. And do you remember what Dwayne wrote on the card? To the flash card.
Uh-huh.
Please don't kill yourself tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But I think he did have respect for him.
I liked their dynamic the most, I think, out of anyone.
Me too.
I mean, obvious, of course, the dynamic between the grandpa
Yes.
and Olive is its own category. But I really enjoyed how Dwayne connected more with Frank than he did his own father.
He did in a huge way because Frank's a real human being.
Exactly.
I mean, just what Frank did at the dinner table, the scene that we talked about earlier, you could call that indulgent. I didn't think it was. I think it took a lot of courage for him to be that open. And Olive was genuinely asking. And how often do we in our day-to-day life get genuine questions from someone?
Yeah, absolutely.
We get a lot of quasi-rhetorical, hey, how you doing, man?
Right,
Really?
yeah.
Do you really want to know?
Mm-hmm.
And Olive was really asking. She wanted to know why Uncle Frank was so sad.
Yeah, it was genuine.
And
It was authentic.
And he laid it out. And I could see where, Dwayne
Respected that.
respected that.
Mm-hmm. And that's why when he delivers that to him on the pier, You could see it. It got through to Dwayne. It affected Dwayne.
Exactly.
He was receptive to it.
And Dwayne saying those words, I mean, that is someone who's fighting against this winner-loser dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, and this guy is a rebel. And I was thinking if he can work through his anger and color blindness, you know, he may just lead a really happy life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Frank really liked what Dwayne said, and this led to what I thought was one of the great lines of the film. He said, "I'm glad you're talking again, Dwayne." And then this is where he waited several beats and says, "You're not nearly as stupid as you look."
That's that Steve Carell timing.
And it was so,
It's a heartwarming scene. I mean, this whole movie, there's so many beats. There's so many good moments that are really heartwarming, that are really tug at the strings. It's a movie about complicated human beings.
Yeah.
And everybody's complicated in their own way. And they're all got their own unique personalities. And they're all clashing.
That's right. They are all
stuck
clashing.
in this one van together on the road.
But there's one point where they're not clashing. And so for my final thoughts,
Love it.
I think the scene with the whole family dancing on the stage at the Little Miss Sunshine contest says it all. Because sometimes you got to say, fuck the rules, fuck the expectations, fuck the comments coming from all directions. Sometimes you just got to have no more fucks to give and just live. And that's what they did.
On that stage. Yeah, 100%. It was a beautiful martini.
I love that. If we could back up a little bit, while Olive was in the in the contest, and she comes out to do her dance that her grandpa taught her, which was a total striptease.
Yeah.
These were the moves that I learned from my grandfather.
Yeah.
And I want to dedicate this to my grandfather. Oh, that's so sweet, honey. Where is he? In the trunk of the car.
Yeah. That's one of the best moments. That's one of the funniest parts of the whole movie. Oh my God. Man. It's so good.
So at that one moment, all of them gave up any inappropriate pride, whatever shame.
Yeah,
and
no
they just
winners
did
and
that.
losers.
No, and they did that to support Olive.
And you know what I love is
it.
that Olive was kind of the one that showed him that, because she was on that stage. She's got that, she plays the role of the kid innocence. She plays the role
Big
of
time.
that innocence we all kind of remember loosely as being a kid and not giving a shit about anything, you know, and just everything's fun.
I agree with you. I think to add a level of complexity to that, both her brother and her uncle came backstage to stop her from going out there because they saw what the other kids were doing and they thought, she's not on the same level.
She's going to get laughed at.
She's going to
be
laughed
a loser.
at. Exactly. And they ask, you know, first they say it to the mom, and the mom's like, you know, well, Olive, do you want to go on? And Olive hears this, and I love that she's like, no, I want to do this. So she knew she was, first of all, you're taking a chance on any kind of contest, but then to have these people that you love and respect come into the room and say, you might not want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going, I'm not so sure here.
Yeah. And
Maybe I shouldn't.
So she made a conscious and brave decision. And so, yes, there was innocence in there, but I would say there was even more. There was bravery.
Yeah, absolutely. And she showed that to the adults.
She did. And that's what got the adults up there.
100%.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And you know Grandpa would have been up there.
Oh, without question.
Unless he was in the bathroom snorting heroin.
But then he might not have made it out.
He might have come out and joined them. So I thought that was such a fantastic scene to have. I thought that was an important scene.
Yeah, and it envelops everything that you've been talking about this entire time, about how this ridiculous dynamic that exists in society of winners and losers, and you fall into one category or the other. This movie lays out perfectly that, you know, between the grandpa, between Olive, between Frank, everybody, it's like, sometimes, man, fuck it, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Live your life.
Yeah. And those words of wisdom came from the 17-year-old in this movie.
Yeah.
And I freaking love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
agreed.
Go see it, people. What a joy. What a joy. You don't have to go anywhere. You can sit on your couch and see it. So I have 5 recommendations, and these are rebels.
Ooh.
That's the theme here.
People that go against
rebels.
the grain.
I love it.
Love it.
First one, Braveheart, starring a young Mel Gibson about a real Scottish rebel, William Wallace. Talk about a death scene. Have you seen that movie? You need to see it.
I know. I know. You know what?
We'll do an episode on that.
You know what? Yes, because I told you on the training day episode, I'm done with this horse shit where I'm in my head and I'm like, I got to see that movie one day.
Okay.
I'm seeing this shit.
Okay. Yeah, you are, because we need to have an episode on that.
All right.
And you will see that on Paramount Plus when you do it. Number 2 is Milk, starring Oscar winner Sean Penn as real-life hero Harvey Milk. It is a must-see, which you can do on Amazon Prime. But I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time of Harvey Milk and his assassination. And Dianne Feinstein then became the mayor of San Francisco. That really elevated her. But that was a horrific thing. And Sean Penn is nothing shy of absolutely remarkable. And Harvey Milk was an everyday hero.
Is this the Twinkie defense?
Yeah, that was.
I remember
wow, you remember that?
About this? Yeah. Didn't you say you saw it on the news?
Oh yeah, I was.
You remember
I was,
when it happened?
Oh yeah, I sure do.
Wow.
Thankfully, the Twinkie defense no longer exists. I won't go into it here, but number 3, V for Vendetta, starring Hugo Weaving and Natalie Portman, about a shadowy freedom fighter taking on a tyrannical government.
God,
how
that's a good movie.
timely!
I haven't seen that in forever.
It's so good. You'll be shocked by how young Natalie Portman was, and you can be shocked by watching that on Amazon Prime.
She got started so young.
Yeah, and she was just so
what was
fantastic.
the one with Leon the
gate.
Professional? Is that the one where she's like...
Yeah, the
8?
Professional. Yeah.
Yeah, she's so good in it, too.
So good. Number 4 is The Breakfast Club, starring Emilio Estevez, Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, and Ali Sheedy, about teens being teens.
It's a classic.
It is. And their commonality is their rebellion, truly. And I love that. And you can see that classic on Netflix. Number 5, one of my favorite movies of all times, The Matrix, starring Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and Hugo Weaving.
We got to do this on. We got to do an episode on that.
Please, you're a fan of that?
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, it's one of those. When people use the phrase "important," I go, a lot of times I'll roll my. But to me, that movie's important.
Sure, agreed.
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree.
We will do an episode on that.
Yes,
awesome. So, to all y'all out there, thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you're looking for are beyond the frame. You just got to say, what the fuck? So we'll see you next time.
Peace.